There were so many times when I was reading this book as a more traditional-minded parent that I wanted to throw the book across the freaking room because it finally put into words how my wife and I and other parents like us had felt in our gut and been unable to express. Welcome to Rumble Book Club. I'm your host, Michael Hernandez, and today we're going to talk about the book Bad Therapy, Why the Kids Aren't Growing Up by Abigail Shrier. Shrier is also the author of another best-selling book. It's called Irreversible Damage, which chronicles the transgender movement and its effect mostly on young girls. But in today's focus, Bad Therapy, Abigail Shrier takes her investigative focus and points it at our most recent and anxious generation, and that is Gen Z. Anyone who's had enough contact with Gen Z knows that there's something a little off about them, or something that stands out from other generations, such as the millennial generation, who is actually raising Gen Z right now, or the greatest generation, Gen X, the boomers. There's something that stands out particularly about Gen Z, and a lot of it has to do with high levels of anxiety, ADHD diagnoses, depression, nihilism, and also a supreme struggle to adjust to the day-to-day challenges and adversities of life. Abigail Shrier contrasts the millennial childhood, which is where she loosely fits into, as well as my wife and I, with Gen Z and how they're growing up. Now, one of the big differences is that with the millennial age and pretty much every other age that came before it, there was more of a traditional-minded style of parenting. Now, that was with very hands-on moral instruction of the child, but very hands-off physical, mental, and emotional raising of the child. Meaning you let the child navigate the day-to-day dangers of childhood to a reasonable extent, and as a result, they learn how to negotiate with people, how to have conversations with people, how to handle small challenges, and that allows them to build up to bigger challenges. Now, how that contrasts with Gen Z is being raised by the millennials to avoid trauma. That seems to be the overarching goal of millennial style parenting, which is to avoid trauma. You are very hands-off morally with the child. The child is free to form their own morals and values, but you're what can only be described by John Roseman as helicopter parenting when it comes to their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. A lot of this style of parenting, this new age gentle parenting, stems from an increase in psychological treatment and therapeutic treatment of children. There was a huge explosion, particularly in the 60s, but it got worse over time, of psychologists discussing the importance of avoiding trauma in young children and how basic experiences, low-level experiences such as punishments, whether that's spankings or timeouts or being grounded, strict enforcement of rules by parents can lead to little traumas that can build up over time in the child. And a result of this is a concept that Abigail Shrier introduces in her book that's well known in the medical field, known as iatrogenesis. Iatrogenesis is the understanding in the medical field that it is impossible for a healer to work on a patient without the inherent risk of causing more damage. All of medicine is balancing whether or not the iatrogenesis is worth the risk of the treatment. But when it comes to the psychoanalytic field, when it comes to the field of therapy, particularly in children, this risk weighing, this understanding of iatrogenesis gets tossed out the window. There's a hesitance in that industry to admit the possibility of iatrogenesis, that therapy could actually be harming the patient more than it is actually helping. Shrier connects the dots between this gentle style parenting and an increase in therapy and other therapeutic treatments such as medications, such as being over-involved in the child's life, avoiding allowing them to take risks, filling their lives with screens in order to placate them and keep them in one spot and get a little breather from the parent. She draws a line from these treatments, these therapeutic treatments, to the increase in anxiety, in ADHD diagnoses, in depression, in self-harm, in all these waves of negativity that are plaguing Gen Z. One of the main points that Abigail Shrier comes to, her final conclusion, is to restore, at least in part, some of that traditional style parenting of letting your children take calculated risks, letting your kids go out and play, maybe not in the middle of the highway, but go out in the neighborhood, ride their bike, be gone for a few hours without automatically texting them on their phone. Let them go out without their phone. Don't give your kid a smartphone where there's a barrage of all this negativity that's going to infuse their brain. Give kids a chance to be autonomous, and through that, they will build resiliency to the pressures of the outside world and become functioning, healthy, well-adjusted adults. An interesting thing about the book is a lot of the information, a lot of the advice that's given correlates really well with the work of Dr. John Roseman, who wrote books like The Well-Behaved Child and Making the Terrible Twos Terrific and Parenting by the Book. These two authors coincide really well when it comes to parenting advice. So if you enjoy the work of Abigail Shrier, you may also enjoy the work of Dr. John Roseman. I highly recommend this book. I bought it off of Amazon in hardback. It's a wonderful book, easy read, and it's interesting. It's intellectually stimulating, especially as a parent who really has skin in the game. So you can find it on Amazon. The book is Bad Therapy: Why the Kids Aren't Growing Up. Go out and get yourself a copy. Thanks for watching, everybody. Now go read something.